Hello, and welcome to the Hello You Show, where we talk about big dreams and taking real action. Through transformative stories, a bit of neuroscience, and real conversations, this show is here to help you explore creating your next level life with authenticity and passion. I'm Jessica Rice, a design techie and former engineering leader turned vision evolution coach on a mission to help other women rise up and lead a life of purpose. So get cozy and say hello again to the real you. Hello, my name is Jessica Rice. Welcome to the Hello You Show. I'm your host, and I have a very different kind of episode than I normally do. And so a few weeks ago, we had the 50th episode anniversary of the Hello You Show. And I kind of alluded to the fact that I started to want to do things a little bit differently. And when you start out on anything new, and then maybe you start to get into a rhythm and you get into a rut, it starts to feel like here's the formula that you follow. And if you know me at all, and you've worked with me ever, or you've talked with me, you know that I always like to change things up a little bit. I'm never one for just sticking with the formula, call it whatever you want, neurodivergence or whatever. But I felt like just things were getting disconnected. And I was just getting disconnected from myself. And I'm not sure if you've ever felt this way, either in your career or things that you've been doing, your passions, even things that you love, that you start to feel disconnected from because you are falling into a very formulaic way of being. Your responses are formulaic. You're lacking the passion. You're lacking the excitement. Everything is feeling just kind of stuck. And I know I felt that way in my career for a really long time. I was in corporate for 15 years. And I ended up moving into roles that while I excelled in them, they weren't quite exactly what I was wanting out of my life. And so I started to look into other avenues to feel like I could fulfill my greater purpose, my higher calling. And that's really how I fell into coaching, because going from graphic design, and I had an art background, and then moving into, say, software engineering, and then leadership, it started to feel a little bit constrained and a little bit on the wrong path. And while most of you who are familiar with my company, Jessica Rice Coaching, where I do work with executives and leaders and businesses, mostly in the tech space or aerospace or even in government. So I have this side of me that I work with people on that level, right? I'm working with VPs and people with, companies of thousands of people and teams where they're leading thousands of people. But there's pieces of me that don't always align or fit into that box. And I wonder, how many people feel this way all the time? That is why I went into coaching, because I think most of us don't feel that way. I don't think most of us are fitting inside of this quote unquote box of our careers. Our career is only one aspect. And so the whole point of this show, the whole point of saying hello you to yourself, was to open up those doors, to open up those possibilities. And I've had some really amazing guests on the show. I've had some people who've shared some incredible stories, some incredible trauma, some incredible pain, some incredible breakthroughs. And the work that they do is phenomenal. And, there was still this piece of me that wanted to open this up, because I recognized too that I was shutting down. I wasn't opening up. I wasn't expressing all of myself. And so I had to think about this. And I was spending the weekend, I had this kind of awakening over this, because I'll be honest, we've had a really hard couple of weeks in our family. We've had some family issues, things with elder care, and and trying to maneuver that in a way where everybody felt comfortable. And so I've really poured a lot of myself into those types of efforts. And so there's pieces of me that I ended up bringing back or calling back because those are the things that fuel me or feed me, especially when deep inside I'm struggling. I'm struggling to connect with myself. I'm struggling to connect with my work. I'm struggling to do these other things. And I've also recognized that these pieces of myself have been lying dormant. Now, I coach around this and I help people with this all the time, but that doesn't mean to, it isn't to say that it doesn't happen to everybody, which is why I wanted to share this. And I hope that it gives some hope to you because we all can go through this. We can all go through our highs and our lows and these slumps that we're facing. And it can feel debilitating. It can feel so challenging at times when we are in that because it starts to feel aimless. We don't know what we're doing. We're starting to lose that spark, that hope, that thing that ignites us. And I think that this can happen, that we feel this in our careers. Maybe we start out, it's exciting, and it's exciting maybe for a number of reasons. One, maybe we're getting more money than we ever had, or it's a new promotion, and it may not even be the right fit, but we're really excited about it. And then we get into that groove after a little while, and we start to recognize the hardships. And that's like anything else. And so, operating a business is very similar. There's aspects of the business that I absolutely love. And there's aspects of the business that are challenging. It's challenging to show up and be consistent every single day. It's challenging to put myself out there sometimes, coming from a very introverted background where I really sat behind a computer most of my day and evening, mind you, and stared at it and talked to myself, which isn't very unlike what I'm doing right now. But for the sake of the show, and I'll pretend that you are all listening to me live, sometimes we can start to feel like we don't know what we're doing. And I felt that way in my career where I would wake up and I would just have this panic attack sometimes because I didn't know where my life was headed. I didn't know if I was on the right track. Was this really the trajectory I wanted? And I started to interview with different companies. I had been with my company for a while and I would go through different interviews throughout my tenure with my last company. And then none seemed like the right fit. I felt like that wasn't what I wanted. And I just didn't know. And so when I started to find coaching and I really started to explore this, I thought, yes, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Because if you know me, I have a million hobbies. I have so many hobbies and things that I love doing and things that attract me. And I think, maybe in one of the episodes too, I was thinking about this is something I think we should talk about is how we leverage our hobbies for our success, how we leverage those things to fuel that fire on that larger purpose, because it's not for naught, right? It's there for a purpose. And so really thinking through that can be helpful. So I spent the last weekend really thinking about, okay, how am I going to get out from underneath this? I've been here before. What are the things that I did? Well, I poured back into some of my passions. And for me, some of my passion work is cooking, which might sound, it's one of those things where I don't just do it and I make a dish and I'm like, oh, good, I made something. One, it gives me the excuse where I feel like I'm being productive. I'm doing something for my family and that pleaser in me gets to be satisfied. But then the high achiever in me will also come in full throttle. And so this weekend I made probably 6 dishes. It's like cornbread and soup and roast and ham and risotto and spaghetti and all. I made it all in 2 days. And I'm like, okay, here we have everything for the week. Brownies, everything. My family came home and I was like, it was just and the kitchen was clean because I always clean when I cook. But, and it filled me up because it got my mind working and it got me doing something. Now, there was a point in my life very, very early on when I was waiting tables. I spent about 6 years waiting tables, fine dining restaurants here in the Monterey area. And I thought that I wanted to be a chef. I thought that's how I would express myself creatively because I'm a very creative person. And then I started to recognize I didn't want to do that all the time. I didn't want to be making the same kind of meals. I already waited tables. I knew what that experience felt like, and I enjoyed the food and the wine, and sometimes I enjoyed the customers, but not always. If we're being honest. So I still love to go in there and chef out and do all of those things and do holiday dinners and do all of that stuff. And I'll stress myself out even a little bit in like a healthy kind of way. You could ask my family, maybe they would debate. So I, poured myself into that. And then I also was like, oh, but I haven't done anything with my shop recently. And for those of you who don't know, I have an Etsy shop, and I've been I had wanted to for a while, convert it over to a different platform. That was kind of my like first iteration. And I had created a ton of, t-shirts and hats and a lot of stationery. That's what the impetus was to create planners and calendars and tools that people could use to help them with organizing their lives and their schedules and really pursuing those passions and those hobbies. And so I spent, yesterday and the evening, just like all of a sudden, just had this huge drive. Now I have been partnering with a friend. We're creating, I can't really talk about it, but we're creating something really special right now, which is really exciting and fun. It's also tapping into that creativity and that those creative juices are flowing. So I know that we're going to be putting that onto the shop. So there's a little bit of a push there, but I was like, I'm just going to pour in. And so I just started building this shop, this website, and just starting to pick out, and it's going to have women's clothing and apparel, and it's supposed to uplift women who are really ambitious and empowered and wanting to support them in their goals, but also feel really good about themselves. So it has all these different pieces in there that I just feel that I love. So I was just doing all these different things. And I was thinking about that. It's like, I wanted to share because sometimes these things can seem like they're not related. This just has this doesn't have anything to do with this. This doesn't have it. And I struggled with my own coach for a little while because it was like, well, we really need to really set the focus on what it is that you want to be doing. Because if you're spreading yourself too thin, you're not going to have time for all of that. And that can be very true, right? We all know that can be very, very true. But when you have a creative mind, when you have an active mind, when you have all of these different things that you enjoy doing, you cannot shut them out. You can't shut them down. You can't say, oh, well, now I'm only going to focus on this, which is why I think that so many of us feel stuck in our jobs, in our career. We feel because we cut off parts of ourselves because the job is taking up so much of our time and so much of our energy that we lose momentum for the rest of our lives. We lose that passion. And we don't have the time or the energy to then go pick it up or pursue it, say on the weekend or in the evening, even though oftentimes those are the very things that actually energize us and fill our cup. Anytime that we have, I all feel like that we are all creative beings. It doesn't mean that you have to be an artist, but we have creativity in us. We have innovation. We have this drive and this way that we can think about things. And when we shut that out, and certain aspects of ourselves that reignite those flames, it impacts us on every aspect of our lives. It impacts us in our work. It impacts us with our families. It impacts us with how we operate, how we sleep, how we just go throughout our day, how we feel, our health, all of these things. It's like a ricochet. And I felt like it was so important to talk about this because when we can tap back into it, is when we can start to feel alive again. And that is what I felt like was missing from this show. That's what I felt like was missing from things within my life. I work with executives, I work with leaders, I work with teams to create high-performing teams. And not only that, but healthy, psychologically safe teams that trust one another, which is very important to me, having come from a very toxic corporate background. Incredibly toxic. I excelled, somehow was able to do that, but it was incredibly toxic. And so I feel very passionate about that. But I also mostly feel passionate about helping people to rise up and recognize what they are here to do, what their higher calling is, what that purpose is, and to start paying attention to all those little things that are going on for you inside of your mind that you feel are shut off. Because if it feels like your career isn't right, is it because you either shut down other aspects of yourself and it that's, and those need to greater attention. Is that the direction for you? Or is it truly a hobby? Is it something that you should really be doing? If you ever read Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic, and then she had a podcast with that years ago, where I remember one of the stories was this woman who loved ice skating. Now, she didn't want to become a professional ice skater, but somehow she was able to figure out how to bring that back into her life. And so she started to wake up really early in the morning before work, go to the rink, and ice skate. Now, for some of us, that seems impossible because waking up early, number one, we're not part of the 5 a.m. club, all of us, and maybe we're not on, board with that. But it's about finding what it is, because when we find something that we actually really enjoy doing, it's amazing how time starts to make itself possible. But we have to be dedicated to ourselves. We had to be dedicated to that inner voice, that intuition that's calling to us, and how we tap into that and really listen and really pay attention and get, if there's people in our lives who don't understand, help them to see. That was a big piece for me too, is really learning how to express myself in such a way where I wasn't feeling, what do I want to say, resentful, but where I could express myself healthily in boundaries. And so I work with people around that too. I'm curious to know, how many of you have felt this way within your role, within your career, within your life, where there's pieces of you that feel shut down, and there's part of you that maybe is questioning, where do you go from here? What do you do about that? Is it too late? This is the path you've been on. This is what you're supposed to be doing. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Maybe you just have to reawaken different parts of yourself that God has given you so that you can start to feel whole again. Because these are all aspects of who you are and what you bring to the table that light you up, that make you this complete package. So I would love to know. Let me know. Reach out to me if you'd like to chat. I'd love to talk with you. How are you feeling about all of this? And what are you doing to start sparking that for yourself again, to start reigniting that fire in your life, within your spirit, within your soul? Because those are the things that when we shut them down, when we're not paying attention to them, just so easy to do, that we start to fall off the rails and start questioning everything else that we're doing in our lives and wondering, does it even make sense? And so even if we're asking those questions, that's a clue. So I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm looking forward to new episodes, new ways of talking about some of this stuff, and really sharing more about who I am, my life, what it is that I do, and all the various oddities that make me who I am and why I really started this podcast. The Hello You Show is here to help you say hi, hello, reintroduce yourself to you. All right, enjoy the rest of your week, and we will be in touch again next week. See you then. Thank you for tuning in to the Hello You Show. It's been a pleasure to have you with us on this journey today. If you found value in our conversation and want to support the show, please take a moment to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd also deeply appreciate it if you could leave us a review. Your feedback not only helps us grow, but also enables others seeking inspiration and authenticity to discover our community. Until next time, keep embracing your story with purpose.